So hey, you probably heard by now that a new mascot horror that isn't Garten of Banban is out. It's called Indigo Park. And while I personally did enjoy this game a lot and have been anticipating it for the past however long I've known about it, it does have some issues. Not some actually, quite a lot. So using my own playthrough, my friend's opinion, and the Steam reviews, I have compiled some points about the game that are positive or negative. And I am going to start with the bad parts of the game so then I can talk about the good parts and end the video on a positive note. Because I really do like this game, but there are some issues. Firstly, the biggest issue that I have seen about this game, it's a walking simulator, and lack of a better term, I'm sorry, as much as I wanna like this game, the gameplay itself is not very good. In the game, in total, there are 2 puzzles that can be beaten in less than 10 seconds, and one where you basically crawl around and put together a code to open the door. Across 40 minutes of gameplay, this is not a very good amount of puzzles. The rest of what you do are either exploring, or there's one part where you actually need to retrieve a key, and it seems like there would be danger, but there isn't. But I will touch on that later. And now is a good time to explain that I'm going to sort out the bad parts into actual issues and just little nitpicks that I had about the game. Because there's a surprising amount of little annoyances that aren't really big issues, so I don't want to drag the overall score down because of them. One of these little nitpicks that I was talking about is, for example, the jump of the player character. The player feels really heavy and also really floaty. Another thing, the environment is really dark. Although the outside areas are quite well lit. In some indoors areas, you turn off your flashlight and it's pitch black. Good thing you don't have to worry about ever having to turn off your flashlight because it has infinite battery. I can appreciate that, along with the infinite stamina the player has. So those are going in positives. Oh yeah, another thing I noticed, which I'm going to put in the minor problems because I'm not sure if it's a problem on my end. I've played this game twice, one on stream and one for this video, and both times, like the first few minutes of the game, or like the first few areas of the game, just had like blurry textures everywhere, and my settings were set to high. I mean, one of the signs got turned to freaking pixel art when this is how it was supposed to look, and then it just fixed itself. If this is what low graphical settings look like, that's crazy optimization. Why am I getting things that look like low graphical settings when I have high graphical settings? So getting back on the topic of gameplay, there are not many moments that are actually dangerous. As I referenced previously, when you go to get a key from Lloyd's main stage, Lloyd is very clearly present in the backstage area and even attacks the player, but then just a box falls on him and he retreats. You would think that after you grab the key and try to go back, Lloyd would attack and actually be able to kill you. And you can actually hear him in the background, but he does not attack the player at all. Oh, actually, when you're trying to leave, he like kind of pounces on you and then gets immediately repelled by your critter cuff. So Lloyd cannot at all hurt you in actual gameplay, which is kind of sad because that means the only place where the player can actually die is Molly's chase at the end, but we will talk about that later. So another thing about this game is that there's no like unique gameplay mechanics / gameplay hook. Gameplay hook is something that differentiates it from other games. And for example, this would be the grab pack in Puppy Playtime or the drone in Garden of Banban. Those are both unique features that allow for unique puzzle solving capabilities. This game doesn't have any unique gameplay mechanics, which I think is really holding it back. So I believe that in chapter 2 we will definitely get something like this. Oh, another weird thing I noticed is that looking up and down, instead of looking like you just tilt your head up and down, the character looks like he tilts his entire upper body up and down. And it's really strange, like you probably wouldn't notice it in gameplay. But I got this clip when I randomly discovered it, and it was really strange. Okay, and now we get to move on to the star of the first chapter, Molly Macaw. So as you do the final Molly's landing pad puzzle, she will occasionally appear in the play place or around some corners. It all comes to a climax at the end when she opens the door, chases the player, and eventually gets her head cut off. Okay, so the first little, I'm gonna count this as a minor problem, but her walking animation it's really goofy. You can't really take her seriously when she opens the door with so much anticipation and then starts like doing this. And it's such a shame too, because even the crawling through vent animation and the opening door animation itself, they're all so good. Why does she look like that? I'm not trying to dunk on the animators, I'm just saying that this does not look intimidating. Another weird thing about the chase is that there are these trampolines where you need to jump up and turn around to progress, except for this one, which you need to go forward. And that is not indicated at all. On the first playview through, you're probably going to die here for the first time. It could have used some like graffiti or some decal on the walls to indicate that you're supposed to go forward instead of back like literally every other time. But I actually will give a minor good point to the game because they don't have graffiti in this section, only on the outside where it would actually make sense to have it, unlike games like Poppy Playtime. And the final small bad part of this chase is that when you die, the game tips tell you that Molly can mimic voices she's heard before and not to be fooled by her. Now this in-game gives us some pretty neat lore, like how the mascots were abused and whatnot. I'm not gonna go into lore. I'm just gonna say that it's a pretty big missed opportunity to not have her actually try to fool you ever with this voice mimicking, as she's behind you like the entire chase. So yeah, just a missed opportunity here. Alright, now you may be thinking, wow, that's a lot of bad points about the game. Like 9. Who are the people who made this, who made such an awful game? Okay, so first of all, please don't think that. Even though you haven't thought anything, I just put those words in your mouth. But don't even begin to think that, because this is the developer's first real project. The game's lead, UniqueGeese on YouTube, who I will link in the description, has made one other game besides this, and it was a recreation of chapter 1 of Garden of Banban. So it's not a huge project, and he made that in a week. So it's understandable why this game wouldn't be flawless. And most of the bad parts I listed out were just like minor problems. And when they put up a Kickstarter to fund chapter 2, they like immediately met the goal. So chapter 2 is apparently going to be much better, as they have a lot more support and resources to develop it. So I can't wait to see how the story will unfold from here. But as I said at the beginning of this video, this game isn't all bad. because there are actually good parts of this game too, which I am now going to list off, because there is a pretty big amount of them too. It's time to get into the actual good parts of the game. So firstly, the most obvious good part is the mascots. They absolutely hard carry the entire game. We've got Molly, we've got Lloyd, Finley, Salem. Actually, most of them don't really get much screen time. We saw Molly, obviously, Lloyd in the main stage, and Salem in Rambley Rush, the arcade game, acting as the main villain, which also might have some lore implications, but we're not going to talk about that as I'm not sure. And obviously the star of the show, Rambley the racoon, who deserves an entire other good point all to himself. He is such a character, dude. Like, AI assistant in the park. Honestly, it's a really clever idea and amazingly executed also. He honestly livens up the game so much. Every time he appears, it's gonna be a good time. You already know it. He might or might not be evil. Let's just say I really hope he isn't, but that's still speculation. Another good part of this game is the collectible system. You get a bunch of like plushies and little trinkets lying around that you can bring to an information kiosk where you can see your character's opinion on them and Rambley's opinion on them. He has unique dialogue for each item, and he really hates Lloyd.
I don't get why we even have those. And why do they only make one of Lloyd? Is it because he's the loudest? I can be loud too! Where's my limited edition throwback plush? Where's Molly's? Where's Finley's? Give this mistake to a child and they'll cry.
And the final good point I'm going to avoid this game is actually multiple good points, because the music in this game is so great. I'm going to give one good point for every really good song that it has. So we have a love song for a raccoon, which is the main menu music. Welcome to Indigo Park, which is the like intro cutscenes music. And then I also have to give a point to Caw Caw Crazy and Barnstorming, which are the Molly boss fight in the arcade game and Molly chase at the end of the game respectively. These songs are great. The rest of the OST is also full of great songs, so I encourage you to check it out. Oh, how could I forget? Rambley Review. Literally the best thing to come out of this game.
At Indigo Park, there is a stark contrast
This
to
song
everything I know
is
this
so great.
place
I
should
would
be.
give it 2 points, but I feel like that's kind of unfair, so I will just give it 1 point, and I hope that we will get a part 2 to it at the credits of chapter 2. So these are the total scores for both the good and the bad in this game. Now, as for my personal opinion, as I said, I really enjoyed this game, and it's absolutely worth the price of completely free on Steam. Chapter 2 will be paid, but I think that will probably be well worth the money too. So if you haven't already, go try out Indigo Park, because as I said, chapter 1 is free, or you could watch some of my other videos if you care. If you don't, then I'm not gonna hold you. This is the end. Goodbye.
Indigo Park, more than my remarks are mysteries. Even I don't know what we might find, but fight through the dark, and I'll be your spark of sunshine to get you out of any bind. Till all my old friends are united again, and I won't feel so left behind. Okay, I'll let you go. See you next time, buddy. Please?